Welcome, everyone, for another episode of After School with the Admins. I am Marco Torillo, and I'm here with a couple of special guests. Our first one is Nina.
Hi.
Our second is Akisha.
Hello.
And our third is Juanita.
Hola.
All three of our special guests are teachers from around the New England area, and they're going to be helping us out today and having a great conversation about the relationships that happen between administrators and teachers and about the experience of being a teacher and what occurs throughout that summer. But I would be remiss if I didn't go and talk about my co-host, the man, the myth, the legend that is always with me, Desmond Caldwell.
Hey, everyone. You are After School with the Admins. As Marco mentioned, we're super excited to have our special guests today, each of them being an amazing teacher in the area. We felt that having this episode over the summer was probably the only time we were ever going to be able to get teachers to have 2 seconds to take a breath long enough to be part of a podcast. But we're excited to have our guest today. I would like for each of you to just give us a sort of elevator conversation length explanation of like what drove you to become a teacher. And I'll ask Nina to share first.
All right. Well, mine's a two-part answer. So first of all, I've been teaching this. I'm starting my 24th year in August, which is bonkers because I don't feel that old. But going way back to when I was in like first grade, my dad used to sometimes drop me off at Sumner Ave School in Springfield, where I went to elementary school, where I met Desmond. I would get there before school was like officially open. And that was back in the day before there were no like before school programs. So I'd sit out in front of the office, like literally sitting there like this, like, what am I going to do? And Judy Schwabe was a third grade teacher in the school. And that woman didn't know me from anything. I was like a little kid, like first grade, hadn't really been there too long. And she saw me sitting out there a couple times and was like, do you want to come into my room and like, I don't know, just hang out so you don't have to be here by yourself? And she built this relationship with me out of the clear blue sky for no reason other than she just saw this kid sitting there waiting for like school to start, like it was too early to be out on the blacktop. So go in and just chat with her and I'd help her take her chairs down and like she was just so nice to me for no other reason than that's who that woman was. Then I got to have her as a teacher a couple of years later. And I was like, I still to this day remember things that she taught me as like a 7-8-year-old kid. And I was like, wow, this lady's amazing. And then that always made me want to be a teacher. When I was in high school, so part 2, I was a junior at Central High and, college was looming and I knew I wanted to be a teacher. And I was sitting with Dave Stratton, who was a legend in the PE department at Central High School. And he was like, so Small R's, what are you thinking for school? And I was like, I'm going to go to UMass and become an English teacher. He looked at me. He was correcting my basketball test. He put the test down and both hands on the table and looked at me and goes, do you want to be miserable for the rest of your life? And he goes, why don't you? He's like, let me hook you up with a tour at Springfield College. He goes, I think you'd be a great PE teacher. He goes, you're friendly. People like you. And I stepped foot on that campus and I never looked back. And PE was the best decision that I ever made. And it was because, again, a teacher took an interest in getting to know me, not like just another kid in the class. Like he was sitting with me and wanted to know what my thoughts were and offered because he took the time to get to know me and said, this would be a really great place for you. And and he was right. That's the other thing is like, we connect with kids and we know. And like years later, like I'm still talking about this because it was such a poignant moment in my life. And if he hadn't connected with me, I don't know what I'd be doing. Maybe I would be an English teacher, perhaps not miserable, but it was just, wow. In that moment at 16 years old, like here's this person who took the time to know me. And I was like, all right. And the rest is history. So here I am.
Nina, I love that. That's actually the way you're putting it is the exact same way that I became a PE teacher and went to Springfield College too when I was a student going into it. I was in my high school years, Didn't know really what I wanted to be. I mentioned on a former podcast, I thought I was going to become a chef or like a police officer. And I had my PE teacher became like a mentor to me, got me to realize how I can give back to others the same way he gave back to me in a tough time in my life. And I ended up at Springfield College the same way. And the minute I stepped foot on that campus, I didn't look at another school.
Juanita, what about you?
Well, I started as a teacher when I was little. I wanted to be a teacher, but because my mom was a teacher, my sister's a teacher, a lot of my family members are a teacher or social worker. But I went to a mental health field route. And then I was spending more time with my clients than my son. And I'm a very active parent, so I didn't like that. So I left my job, and for a second, I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't know why. I thought that was going to be the coolest thing, to be a stay-at-home mom. I got bored quickly. And I spoke to the principal at my son's school, and I'm like, what can I do here? And she said, well, you can be a substitute teacher. So I started as a substitute teacher. I done elementary Spanish, middle school, and high school Spanish, which I love. It's my passion. And I did 1 year as preschool teacher. That was different, but I did it. But I was able to balance my work and my son being a mom, and it worked for me. So that's why I became a teacher. So it's short, but a lot of passion.
Absolutely. And I just have to co-sign. People think preschool is easy. It's not. It is not close to easy. I was a principal of a pre-K through 8 school, and I could hold my own going into anyone's classroom other than the pre-K classroom. And those teachers would be like, can you give me some feedback? And I'm just like, just love them. I have no qualifications to give you any feedback on children that young. And then the kids would say, thank you for visiting my classroom, Mr. Caldwell. Kiss your brain. I'm like, I'm done. I gotta leave. If I stay here, I'm just gonna sit in the corner and just like fawn over these kids all day long. They're so adorable. Miss Akisha.
Hi. I'm going into year 19 this year in my 5th district. And I think me and my sister are 3 years apart. So I think I was about 6 years old when I taught her how to read. So I knew at that point, well, I mean, I had a feeling that I was going to go into education, but it didn't quite work that way. I went to undergrad, studied business, tried that for a few years, and then I went back to study special education, got my master's in special education, and started as a long-term sub in a small charter school in Springfield. And the rest was history. I worked in Holyoke, Chicopee, Ware, and now Northampton. And I love it. It's my passion. It's the thing that gets me up every day, no matter what's going on. I love being in the classroom. I love being around educators. It's my thing. I'm happy to be here, and I'll probably finish off my career in education.
Awesome. And so what do you see as the differences in the places that you've been? Because you've been in some fairly different settings. What are like the commonalities, and what are the things that are just like very, very different amongst those settings?
Well, In the urban setting, there's a lot of work to do. So when you come in, you don't have time to like do politics or talk policy. You're just going in to help those kids get on some level. So in Holyoke, I remember going into a classroom. It was fourth through sixth grade, and there were fourth graders there who couldn't read. And I was like, oh, holy goodness. And I had to go in and just work. Like it was work, work, work with each kid, just trying to get them on some level of literacy. And then when you go into districts like Chicopee, where there's a foundation set, there's a lot of politics going on, you get to relax a little bit in terms of the kids, in terms of their abilities, but there's a lot of stuff going on um, politically with admin, with other teachers, with other programs. And sometimes the art of teaching gets lost in that process. Um, but my current district in Northampton, um, the educators are actually very educated, which I found really, really surprising. Not saying that educators aren't educated, but I mean, there's a lot of emotional intelligence that goes into there. And there's a lot of people who have like these crazy backgrounds. They've gone to Harvard, they've gone to, Ivy League, but they're in the classroom and it's just a different feel. Um, but again, there's politics in that because people have more time on their hands. The kids are, more on grade level. So I really had to learn how to navigate that and say, Akisha, okay, once again, you just need to focus on the kids. And it really does come back to that for me. I'm in my zone when I'm in the classroom, meaning my kids are my focus, and where they are emotionally and academically is where I put my time and my energy. I've learned in these 18 years, everywhere you go is not going to be perfect, especially since you ended up there. So that there goes my perfection right out the door. Um, but stay out of the politics, stay out of admin's office, stay out of the gossip, places. Focus on your craft, and that will make you. It actually makes you happy when you get up every day and you know those little faces are going to be waiting for you. You know they're going to be happy that you showed up, and if you remember that, and that's what I do. I just show up for the kids every single day, and that has been the highlight of my career is going in and seeing their faces so happy, getting the feedback from the students. I think is the most valuable piece of teaching is of them giving you feedback. You could have done this better, or Miss Maddox, you forgot to do this, and I'm like, oh my goodness, they were following the routines. They're following what I'm showing them. They're they're picking up, and that's what you want them to do.
Nina, I know you also have some urban versus suburban experience. Um, do you see those same dichotomies at play?
Yeah, 100%. But it's not a negative, right? Like it going off of what Akisha was saying, like it's about the kids. Kids are kids are kids, and
Mm.
each set of children that you work with are going to come with their own set of issues. And so if your purpose is to be there and be there for the kids, then it does not matter who you are teaching. It matters that you are teaching. And that, I do I what do I have a preference for? Honestly, I have not been so happy to be back in Springfield. Like people think I'm nuts when I tell them that like coming back to Springfield was the best thing ever, but I miss it. Like the fabric of that community is so familiar to me, and it's where I grew up. I have like the emotional tie that you have to the community that you're working in is such a big deal in my opinion. And it's not that I didn't love my Westfield kids. I have made lifelong connections with some of these students that I taught here in Westfield. I mean, at least 3 of my former students became phys ed teachers and went to Springfield College. That did not happen by accident, right? Like those connections were real and true and special. But it served a different purpose for me. Being back in Springfield, I just feel like I'm giving to my community that raised me. And that, like, you can't, maybe that makes me sappy, I don't know, but you can't beat that, in my opinion. Like, I'm doing something that I have wanted to do my entire life. It was always to teach back in Springfield, and like be there. And it was sad to leave when I had to go, because it was, the receivership and blah, blah, blah. And, life happens. Like Akisha said, like, sometimes you just gotta like do it. Right. Marco said it too. You have to like be open to that kind of stuff. But yeah, like the school that I'm currently working at in Springfield runs like a dream, and it is a beautifully diverse group of educators and children, but our administrator kicks butt. And because of that, we get to teach. We are not micromanaged. We are not like we're put to task, but not like the politicking, like show off task kind of stuff. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about, Akisha. Like, I don't need to be on my administrator's good side because I'm doing my job. So I'm already there. And that's how she runs. And so I don't care. I left the suburban setting, which most people thought I was nuts for, but it was because our administrator ran the place into the ground, and it was not somewhere where I could be. So, it like suburban versus urban. No, it's administrators who can versus administrators who can't. And it truly, and one of the things that when working in a suburban school, because it's smaller, right? Specialists got shipped out to different schools. So I always had my primary school, and then I had to like fill in blanks at other places, which I did not like for so many reasons. But like, I can't do a good job mostly. Like, I cannot establish like what I do in my space and in my home school is not replicated one day a week for 3 classes a day somewhere else. And that's a really unfair pressure to put on an educator. Your specialists need to be a part of your school community. And so many people in Westfield didn't want to hear that. And I fought tooth and nail to get myself stable in one place. But as a result of that, though, the positive is I saw lots of different styles. I saw lots of administrative styles, and I saw a lot of different schools, and got to know that Westfield actually was not fully suburban. There's rural, there's urban and suburban in the one community. And it was wild to teach in such different buildings with such different clientele all the time. And it did help me shape a more positive opinion of the school system. I'll be honest with you, because when you come from a place that's urban and like super diverse, and the school that I taught at primarily was like a very little like Longmeadow in Westfield. So if you're not familiar with Longmeadow, it's a very suburban setting. And then I got out of that school and had to go somewhere else within the same city. I was like, oh my God, okay. So this is where everybody is. And it was cultural shock for me to like be around a lack of diversity. How about that? Like, it was weird to get used to. And so yeah, no, but it comes down to, where do I want to be? I want to be where somebody can run the school and let me teach. Back me up when I need it, if I need it.
All right, Juanita.
Yes.
So we're going to shift gears a little bit. But I know that you, I remember you talking about having to bring in curriculum because the curriculum just didn't exist to the level that it needed to be to support the students, especially students who were native to that information already, and really push them. So can you talk about that for a minute?
Yes. So, and I was glad that I was given the flexibility to make changes, because some schools probably will say no. But what I did, I brought Hartford to my Spanish class. And for example, if we were learning about the color red, or like police officer, I will connect the class to Spanish speaking people from the community, so the kids can connect. Like, okay, so this is red, and this is a police officer and a policia. So that way they knew that the Spanish was beyond the classroom. Also for Hispanic Heritage Month, we did people from the community. And I mean, they learned that there was an astronaut that graduated from Hartford High, and they were like, wait a minute, so there are famous people that came from Hartford. So those were the things that I was able to do and experience and explore with the classes. And I had a lot of fun doing it because, again, a lot of the students grew up in Hartford, where it's from Spanish-speaking household, but they didn't know a lot about our community, or they didn't know how to. A lot of the parents will say, "Oh, they don't speak Spanish at home," but in the classroom was a different story. The classroom, they will like speak Spanish. So I was able to also have them do that outside the classrooms.
Awesome. All right. So we are more than halfway through the summer break now. So for those of us who are administrators, we are down to our last couple weeks, and then all of our attention turns toward the opening of school, that first week of professional learning. I'm asking your advice now, the three of you. What advice would you give an administrator who is planning welcome back PD for their staff to engage you as you return from the summer?
Lots and lots of icebreakers. People love that. You know what? Having to go and be a new teacher this past year, I loved that our administrators like really pointed out procedural things, but in a way that wasn't obnoxious for veteran teachers returning to the same building, and gave a lot of like they were concise. If you need to do this, then you need to talk to this person, especially for you. There were like 4 or 5 of us who were new on staff, and they made it so it was a refresher for everybody else, but very like to the point. And they didn't spend too much time on that stuff, because you watch people's eyes glaze over about 15 minutes in, right? But your new people need that information and lots of, introductions to who to talk to about things. I found that to be super helpful. Like, you don't have to give the laundry list during the PD, because I'm sure you have lots of other stuff to do, but like making sure your new people feel like they know how to be supported in the building is super important, having been on the other side of that for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I was in a new building last year and we had a to-go person, and I felt comfortable just going to her, and not so that way it wouldn't feel like, oh, this is gonna be an annoying person asking the question. Like, that was her job, so I will go up to her and ask questions. So that helped me a lot, having a one person with that will volunteer to answer questions for the new people.
Yeah, I think that was super helpful. And then I always like when administrators really go through like policy stuff and kind of like let people know what the chain of command, not chain of command, like the workflow is, like when you're like, I think everybody needs a refresher on like that sort of thing. And if there's any district stuff that people need, like always just give as much of the pertinent information, and I guess cut out the extra stuff that people aren't looking for. And if you do have people who are not classroom teachers, always make sure, if the district is not providing some sort of content area PD that is relevant, like find a way to do that for your staff who does not teach in a classroom. Like no art teacher wants to sit with me in a math PD. I don't want that. I don't want to sit in a math professional development. And CPR and first aid training for everybody. Like, it's wild to me when districts don't have that, because we're in front of kids. If there's an emergency, you need somebody who's like quick and ready to go. So like Springfield does that. They make us do it every 2 years. We do a refresher. Westfield did not. I had to go out and get my own certification, which I think the districts are crazy not to have that kind of stuff, especially when you have like AEDs in the buildings. Like everybody should be trained and ready to go. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
So do you guys have any advice for administrators that you'd like to have for them as we go through the school year? Kind of things that you'd want them to do for you as veteran teachers, or for things to help out for the new teachers besides with the professional learning?
It's the appreciation. Like the principal will do something, even if it was something simple as giving, I don't know, a pencil as to appreciate. Just, just showing that, yes, we're here for you and we appreciate you. I know there's gonna need a budget for that, but because I know that costs money. I don't know how she gets the money, but that's something that I really appreciate. The administrator, like, she's very involved and stays in, like, if we having lunch, she stays and talk to us during the lunch. So those are things that sometimes we miss. I don't know, as staff, because we always see. Sometimes in some schools, I just hear that some of my coworkers will say, "Oh, in so and so school, my principal was always in the office, never out." I mean, principals do have to work too, but also know what's going on in the schools. So
Come into my classroom,
yes,
like outside of my evaluations. Like, because I don't mean this in a bad way, but like, first of all, as a specialist teacher, you already probably don't know enough about how I'm teaching and what I'm teaching. And
I do.
Well, no, yes, but you're in the minority of administrators who have that background, right? Although, isn't that usually the pipeline? Phys ed teacher, principal. Like it's very natural progression. It's right. We're good at crowd control, but don't come in twice a year for 15 minutes and assess me. Goodbye. Like, your words don't really hold much water because you have no idea what I'm doing from a 15-minute assessment and who I am as an educator and how I interact with students in 15 minutes. And also, given the fact that we're 40 minutes, like my school's a 40-minute block, so every school has their own different specialist times or whatever. But don't come in the middle of the lesson when they're already playing the game, and then you go, "I didn't see you teach that." Yeah, because you missed the informing. You made my schedule. Get here at the beginning of class. It's a phys ed class. It's not like, we're not doing long division here where you can like circle back and go, "Oh yeah, that's right. That's where they learn to carry the one." Like, that's not how it works. We have 40 minutes to get it done. And if you miss the informing and the demonstrating, you miss a lot of the teaching unless I stop and break down something as I see it, which obviously we'll do, but that's still not a full accurate picture of teaching. That's giving feedback in the midst of what's happening in the class, And if you only come in and see that and you want to evaluate me on that, excuse me if I'm not like overjoyed by what you might have to say or value it. Like, you didn't see me and you haven't come in all year long. What do you like? Why am I not a teacher? Did I not have to get the same credentials as the rest of the people that you hang out in their classrooms? And I mean, like, there's two ways that administrators come into classrooms, right? Like, because they need to, and then there's because they should want to. Like, we're part of your building. Be in there, watch and observe who your students are and how different they are in different settings. Because, little Johnny Angel in English class might be hell on wheels in my room, and no one believes you when you go tell them that the superstar academic student is actually a behavior problem in a different setting, right? And it goes the other way too. That behavior problem in your classroom comes into my room, and like, they're there and they thrive. So you've got to see that diversity within your students too, because that's valuable information. That's how you can connect with them in those, tense situations too. So that's my 2 cents again.
Akisha, I have a question also, kind of piggybacking off of this stuff. How important then is the culture of your classroom to determine on how well the actual instructional aspects will start to happen next? is kind of hearing about wanting administrators to be inside of your classes when it's not just evaluation time. Appreciation from administrators to be a part of it and feel a part of that community. And going back to the very beginning, Akisha, you had made a statement about that connection with kids, especially with ones that weren't able to read right away, and not a conversation of who's going to take this over for me. It was the answer of yourself saying what you're going to do for it. I wonder, just kind of hearing from each of the individuals in this podcast, what is your thoughts on that cultural aspect of the culture that you build inside of your classroom and how much that determines how well the students will thrive?
That's a great question, and I take the culture in my classroom extremely seriously. I set the tone, setting the routine early on in the classroom is very important, and also taking the time to get to know the students is also very important. I've worked with a lot of I've worked with a lot of different administrators, and most of the ones I've worked with did not come into the classroom a lot, which is important to me because I like to be able to set the tone in my classroom, and then once that trust is established, then come in and take a look. And I've never really wanted to or needed to depend on admin for my discipline. Just something you can depend on every day if you have 120 different educators in the building. So I think establishing culture that's based on trust, that everyone's here to do what they need to do, support me when I need it, and also respect my expertise. I'm in the classroom every day. I've taken the time to really know my students. So if I'm in teaching that looks a little bit different than what usually happens, trust me with that. And if it's something that you may not think is going well, let us have a real conversation about it outside of the evaluation process. I really think that what I've noticed globally, which is actually very important to me, is that admin has really made a shift from the punitive process to the development process. That's what I have seen in my 19 years of education, is that as the younger generation comes in, and I think of Des, it's more about supporting teachers in their role. I trust you to do the job that you're going to do, and we're going to work through this together. And that's the kind of culture that really is going to support educators and the system of education, is if it's more of a supportive and trusting culture. So that's what I meant when stay out of admin's office. They are not genies. They cannot just grant wishes. Your classroom is your piece of the world. Own it. You're going to make mistakes. You are sometimes going to need more support than you think. But I think if you start with the culture of trust, it will always iron out the wrinkles and things will work out somehow.
Could not agree with you more. That's beautifully said.
Thank you. I appreciate that response. Is there any final words you would have that you'd want to say to a new teacher, or as we've already kind of said to both many new admins, about, your feelings when it comes to education or how to handle those first times going into that classroom?
Yeah.
I think for a new teacher, I think someone said it earlier, kind of stay away from those people who are always complaining and another day at work, or just the complainers,
Yeah.
the gossipers, because they're gonna drain you. They're miserable. So there's always gonna be, unfortunately, there's miserable people everywhere you go. So that's not just in the school system, but you also have an option of staying away from them, because they will drain you, and you will be, dreading to go to school, to go to work, because the first people that you always see are those the one that are complaining. So just finding, connecting with those people who are more realistic, and that you can connect. So that way, in those days that you don't feel like going to work, you can have that support, because not only with the students but also with the staff.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I cannot emphasize enough to stay true to your craft. Stay keep your why in front of you at all the time, and know that your classroom is your personal world. And even as an inclusion teacher, my when I go into another classroom, I just focus on the kids and focus on what they need. You're not going to get along with everyone, and that's okay. But if you focus on the kids, your work will always have the meaning. You won't wonder, if I'm supposed to be here, because it does come from the naysayers, the people who are just not happy. And that's okay, if they're not happy, but just always remember your why, which is the students in your classroom, and making them feel comfortable for that short 9 months. Make it a meaningful year, and things can get tricky, things can get uncomfortable, but that's in any profession. But I think if you just focus on those students, you will get the most outcome, the best outcome, and you'll also get the most satisfaction out of your career. Just remember those kiddos.
I agree with all of that. And I think one of the things that I've learned over the course of my career is that I have to carve out time for me away from the classroom. And we all know we're supposed to, but I've been through enough within school districts and contract negotiations and layoffs and all the things to know that when I leave school at 3:30, my life has to resume as Nina, who is a mom, who is a wife, who is a full-time Uber driver to all of the sports. And I need to but I can't take my students home with me anymore. And I did for a long time.
Yes.
And that emotional energy that comes from investing in those kids, I don't know about you guys, but they are my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I have thousands of children out in this world right now. They are my kids. But if I take every single one of those kids with me everywhere I go all the time, I can't function, because I love them, and I love them hard for 180 days a year. And as a specialist, all the time that they're at my school, we have a bond by the time they are gone. But I need to have some time for me too. And so that sounds almost cold, but it's not. It's so that you can give everything you've got for that 180-day time span. Because if you don't, you're going to burn out fast. We're all deeply empathetic people. Most educators do not get into this because they can turn it on and off, which is why that's advice I give to student teachers when they come to me. That is something I tell every single one of them. Set a boundary. If you're going to work on schoolwork, do it until you feel that saturation point, and then put it down, walk away, and go back to it tomorrow. You have to protect your energy so that you can go back and do it again. We see hundreds of kids on a daily basis. It's a lot. So protect it so that you can keep doing a great job as you're in that classroom with those kids. So,
thank you so much.
That's my advice.
Awesome.
Well, Des, do you have any final words for our listeners?
Yes, I want our listeners to listen to me thank our amazing panelists today. I appreciate all three of you more than you know. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, your perspectives, your feedback. I hope that our listeners are able to hear everything with a mind on learning, and can use those insights to help design a better school year for the teachers in the building, which will improve the outcomes for the students. People laugh every time I say it, but I am a true believer in that if you don't feed the teachers, they will eat the kids. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in that we have to really support the people that we are asking to stand in front of our kids and provide them with all the things that we put in place to help the students be successful. And so again, I appreciate you all sharing with us today. Nina, I do see us coming back together again.
All right.
Maybe we can have a teacher episode every summer.
Love it.
But definitely appreciate all three of you. Akisha, Juanita, Nina, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, to steal a statement from Des, I won't preach after the preacher. So Juanita Crispin, Akisha Maddox, Nina King, thank you so much for being a part of our podcast today. We really appreciate the time. I hope you have a good end of your summer and you're prepared, rested, and ready to go back for the start of the school year.
Let's go.
As always, love our conversations. With that, school's out.
You all will be missed. Until then, I gotta blow you a kiss. Until we meet again on that other side, this my rhyme. We all love you to the end of this time, always. Know this, you all will be missed. Until then, I gotta blow you a kiss. Until we meet again on that other side, this my rhyme. We all love you to the end of this time, always.